morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Jeff Wong from eXp Realty, your 2023 Education Committee Chair. Some quick housekeeping items before we get started. Virtual participants will be muted in the meeting. We encourage everyone to please enter any questions you have into the chat box. The speaker will answer your questions during the Q&A session toward the end. This session is being recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel, West San Gabriel Valley Realtors. Our co-host today is Mr. Lee, who will introduce our topic and guest speaker. Mr. Lee, take it away.
Thank you, Jeff. Today, we are very lucky to have two distinct speakers to come and talk to us about energy. The first speakers will be Nancy Luke. She's a CPA, so she's going to give us some pointers on how to get the tax benefits of this new source of energy. The second speaker is Ting Chang. She is an executive vice president of Micronoc, and she will teach us the mechanics of how to implement the systems that she's going to share with us to derive those tax benefits. So I'm going to introduce Nancy first. Nancy has been a CPA since 1981. She's the director of Pacific Alliance Bank in San Gabriel since 2006. She is also a partner of Alliance Ever Inc. since April 2002. She belongs to a company called Certified Emergency Power, which uses elevator operations with lithium-ion batteries. She graduated with an economic degree in National Taiwan University. Her accounting degree is from UCLA, and she also got an MBA in taxation from Golden Gate University. Let's welcome Nancy.
Hi, thank you, everybody. Today we are talking about electricity. That means the clean electricity. Well, electricity, you cannot touch it, you cannot smell it, and you cannot feel it, but you cannot live without it. Before, I don't even know about electricity. Until now, since I know the Micronoc, they introduced it to explain to me what is electricity. I didn't realize the electricity is so complicated. It's so important to the society and to the world. But you will all know because of the carbon dioxide and the climate changes and the administration has been have a passing the Inflation Reduction Act since August 16, 2022. There's a 700 pages of a tax law. Of this, they allocated $370 billion for clean energy efficiency investment. So mostly that's why the reason we are here today, we are talking about basically concentrate the commercial real estate. There's a lot of the tax incentive which we can be benefiting. Now, let's talk about, so what is, first of all, let's take a, what is energy? What is electricity energy? Which including solar panels, battery storage, EV charging station. Actually, they include a lot more, but those are the items which I understand. So if you have store those, how do you generate electricity? You have to install the solar panels. How do you keep the battery, those energy inside the battery? Then you need the storage. Then you talk about how to reduce CO2. We talk about EV, and you need the EV charging station. Nowadays, a lot of people told me the reason they don't buy EV is because they are lack of a charging station, because they don't know when they go to Las Vegas whether they can get there or not, or maybe whether they can find this charging station or not. So that is important. So that is a part of we have those incentives here. If you have install all those items in your commercial property, let's say shopping center, in a real estate, apartment, condo, you have a battery, you have a solar and panels, you have an EV charging station, because nowadays you need to have a charging station in your apartment buildings or commercial or shopping center. So of that, 30% of the cost will be as in tax incentive, will be what we call the investment tax credit. So let's say if you have $100,000, 30% of that is $30,000, that will be your tax credit. The tax credit is you apply investment tax credit at 30%. That does not mean you get the money refunded. The tax laws always say when you give you a credit, you have to apply it to reduce your tax liability. If you cannot use it, apply the current years, you can carry back 3 years to file amended return, get your money back. Or you cannot use it all, you still can carry over for next 20 years. You can use it. But some of the people say, if I have invested $1 million, I have $300,000 investment tax credit. You say, well, I may not be able to use it all of them. What do? You can sell it. You can sell to the third party unrelated. Because nowadays, a lot of people out there, for example, law firm, anybody is not related with the energy sector. They need the tax write-off. They need the tax credit so they can reduce their tax liability by buying from you. But of course, nowadays, they will not buy 100%. You probably get some discount. And there's a lot of banks nowadays, they try to doing those and to get those tax credit to someone else. In addition to tax credit, we also have a special depreciation benefit. We call the bonus depreciation. Let's say you have a $1 million property, $300,000 of tax credit. So you have to reduce your depreciation basis by the tax credit you received. However, they say, since we are incentive, you only 50% of that will reduce your depreciation basis. Then you also have it for 2023, you have another 80% bonus depreciation. So that means $1 million, you have a $300,000 tax credit, you reduce by $150,000, so you have $850,000. 80% of that you can deduct in the first year. You'll talk about a lot of money here. $850,000 times 80%, that's $640,000 additional depreciation. The remaining, you can depreciate over 5 years. Usually solar energy, all those items usually takes about 25 years to depreciation, but they say you can depreciate in 5 years. But of course, those you talk about a lot of depreciation. You talk about $800,000 depreciation. You may not be able to use all of them. So you can think about, okay, I can depreciate it over maybe 10 years, 15 years, 25 years. You can discuss this matter with your accountant to decide what is the best way to fit your needs. Now, the next one, we talk about EV charging station. The new tax law, they call alternative fuel vehicle refueling property credit. So those credit, basically, you also have a 30% tax credit, but you're also able to, if you are involved with that Edison, they will give you a rebate, almost 100% rebate. So that means, we have we have a client, they are building 60 units of a condo. Each unit, they install the EV charging station, because eventually by 2035, California, most people need to have an electrical car. So in that case, you need to have an EV charging station. So nowadays, people are building a new building, and usually they are put in the EV charging station in there. And those Edison will also give you rebates for that to cover that. But also, we talk about the EV charging. Usually they have several kinds. Then the AC level 1, AC level 2. They also have DC, the level 3. If you have a home, those charging station takes about 8 to 10 hours. But if you have a shopping center, you're not going to have a car that's going to sit there for 8 to 10 hours to recharge. So you probably need a DC faster charging. So that's what Micronoc, they can install those. It takes about 20 minutes to charging your EV charging station. But also nowadays, in the past, a lot of people, they're reluctant to build up the charging station because it is expensive. And that on top of that, it costs a lot of electricity to fill up, give the juice to the station. But now you have a 30% tax credit. Then you also have a Edison. They will give you the rebate to almost a 100% rebate for you. So basically, does not really cost you that much. But also, the most important thing is that if you're a developer, you try to sell your property, if you have an EV charging station on each unit, I'm sure you can get a pretty premium on that house. And for rental, I think you can really do pretty good rental too. And I think that for commercial property real estate, that's important. That is really in the future, and you have to look forward to it. The next one's, let's say you've said, oh, I don't own any real estate, and I don't have an apartment, I don't have a shopping center. What can I do? Can I still receive those tax benefits? Yes, you can. But how? I want to, that is my next, we're going to give you the answer afterward. That because the next one, I'm going to introduce Ting Chang from Micronoc. You probably want to know, what is a Micronoc? What does a Micronoc can do? Who is the, how do they do? So now the words of Ting Chang come into place.
Thank you for that introduction of how we can take advantage of some of the tax benefits on using electricity as a vehicle in helping the communities, whether you own a business or you don't own a business. Now I'm going to introduce Ting Chang, who is going to share with us her company and how you guys can implement using her provider solutions. Ting Chang is the Executive Vice President, Sales, Marketing, and Business Development of Micronoc. Micronoc is a creator of clean virtual power. I assume that whatever they did is clean and green. A successful developer and solution operators. They provide behind the meter, some of this terminology I don't know about, so maybe you can explain to me. I just read this. Incentive-based network of integrated loads, generation, and storage assets that collaboratively deliver low-cost energy service for the building to green. It sounds very positive. Ting is an entrepreneur. She's very compassionate about the job. She has over 25 years of experience in assisting and providing strategic operation leadership. She has worked 12 years in alternative energy and energy storage system, ESS, both in the front of the meters and behind the meters, which I also don't know what they are, in the electric power industry. She studied in business administration, marketing at Cal State Fullerton, University of Phoenix. She's fluent in English and Mandarin. Let's welcome Ting.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. So hopefully I can help answer some questions that everybody's confused. First, I just wanted to, the purpose of the presentation today is to let everybody understand how electricity play with your properties, especially commercial properties in the US electricity markets. And to help assist everybody understand how this works is the term of time of use. So earlier, Nancy was talking about investment tax credit. So in order to discuss about investment tax credit, you first have to understand how to implement the clean electricity into time of use. And that's kind of where we're going to introduce what is clean virtual power, and why is it a property-based power stations and why that's important for commercial real estate. And so here we go. So before we can get to time of use, we need to understand what is happening. And so here is an imbalance of the electricity grid. And this is a grid profile of the California electricity grid. So if you see the current electricity supply profile, this is a 24 hours. There is what they call a negative pricing. So if you guys ever go back and look at your electricity bill during the day hours where the sun is abundant in California, your electricity cost is actually relatively cheap. And the reason why it is cheap is because the energy hours during the sun hours, because everybody's got solar, we are oversupplying on the grid. So it's just kind of like finance economy, same thing. So when you have more than demand, then you would have a cheaper cost. So another imbalance is happening is once your solar is done, meaning that the sun sets, there's no more sun power. So all of that solar power that originally was generating during the day hours are now disappearing. So that starts to disappear at 4 p.m. So in the state of California, in the recent couple of years, everybody have their electricity rates go up from 4 to 9 p.m. And that is what we call highest peak hour rates. And in that highest peak hour basically is what we call the time of use. And that time of use, you have a time of use during the day hours, and you also have time of use during the non-day hours. And when you're not matching your supply and your usage, then you're in balance. And when you're in balance, if you see the little purple on the left of your screen, that is what we call a ramp. So, and that is the problem that the US electricity market or the energy market is facing. And this is the reason why the US is bringing in all these tax incentives. So one of the things that we moved into starting last year is what we call the US building and vehicle electrification. And as I mentioned before earlier about that imbalanced supply and demand, in order for us to continue moving forward with clean energy, we have to be able to reduce the gap between the valleys and the peaks of the time of use, the different hours when we use it and versus when we're supplying it. If we match that time of use with the time of supply on the electricity grid, then we'll be balanced. And once we can be balanced, then we can introduce more clean energy into the future generation. So on this chart, you'll see that prior to today, the grid profile or the curve is relatively flat. It's not too damaging. This is what California does every single day on the hour, every day is to match that supply and demand. So as we got more solar now today, we're dipping into the valley during the day hours. And then once 4 p.m. comes, we're now ramping up into this big spike. And as we look in the future, as electric vehicle comes, if you see the 2025 graph, as we get into electrification, you'll have a very, very steep peak that will definitely have a lot of shutoffs on your electricity power. And I think we've already all experienced that in the last couple of years where California had the power safety shutdown. So if we don't do anything about it, it's going to get worse. However, the good news is we're actually able to handle this matter by buildings. And this is the reason why we're here today, to explain to everybody how do you use your commercial real estate buildings and including your homes in the near future and take leverage of the incentives now to make what we call the property-based power stations for the grid. So this came from the Department of Energy. The reason why buildings play a very big role in electricity and clean energy in general is because 70% of total US electricity is consumed by buildings. So from DOE, it just makes sense because buildings have an enormous potential and a critical role to play in an integrated transactive energy-based system. So you have to be able to build a transactive energy-based system that we can succeed. So let me explain what that means to you as a user. So this is a typical building, an average commercial and industrial building's electricity usage profile. This is a 24-hour profile. This facility is an actual hotel that we use to showcase for you that during the 4 to 9 p.m., you see this ramp up into their usage. And if we're able to properly allocate what is that transactive based amount, then we can actually use that to do something to help balance the grid. So normally out of this whole entire, I know you guys can't see it, but on the graph it says a 400 kilowatt is a maximum use. The highest peak that you see starting around 4 o'clock. On the left-hand side of that red square. If we just carve out 200 kilowatt of that, that is currently what you are paying right now with that 200 kilowatts for For this particular client, we're using PG&E's electricity rate, and then that's 146,621. That's just using half of that amount at 4 to 9 p.m. And this is the same with whether you're hotels, cold storage, manufacturer, light industrial. So, as earlier we said, the transactive energy-based system. Now, the next challenge is once you can allocate that out of your highest peak hours, you're able to allocate how much capacity you can control. If we make that into a virtual control, according to the Department of Energy, which means that it can function as a virtual control system for the grid. So, meaning they don't literally have to be at your building to turn on and off the 4 to 9 p.m. energy when it's oversupplied. They can, you allow them to virtually control, and I'll explain what that is. So once a system is installed at your facility, that is called behind the meter. So that's why I wanted to make sure that everybody understand the difference between behind a meter and in front of meter. Behind a meter is when all of the transactive-based energy system is installed and hooked up at commercial and industrial buildings. So that's essentially what we provide to the grid. Together with partners with commercial real estate buildings, we're able to turn buildings into power stations for the grid. And the combination of that is either, depending on the spaces that buildings have, it will come with 10-foot, 20-foot, or 40-foot container size facilities, or it could be 3 like cabinet size, kind of like a refrigerator size, a little bit bigger than a refrigerator size cabinets that will sit kind of on the outskirts of the property, on the corners or by the parking station. And then to accommodate the EV charging and clean energy, we would come in with 2 DC fast charging, as Nancy said earlier. You don't have enough time to be sitting there waiting for 10 hours to charge in a public area, but you have some time, like about 20 minutes to charge. So we would implement those DC chargers with what we call our clean virtual power stations, and we'll combine it with solar panels on site. So together from that hardware implementation and installation, it will be combined with Micronoc's patented technology, which is what we call the point of control. This point of control is what we offer to the US government, Department of Energy, specifically in California, to the California ISO, which is the grid operator. They're the one who's balancing the electricity supply and demand. So point of control really is just a definition of a patented technology combining the hardware, firmware, software, and regulatory know-how of grid synchronization for behind a meter, which is at your site, demand managed participation in wholesale markets. What that looks like now. So we take that same exact building, using that 200 kilowatt, meaning half of the highest peak hours that we've carved out. And then we use it for using our power stations on site. So basically we would carve out, or as our CEO calls it, we scoop out that energy that originally was taken from the electricity grid of California, no longer will be visible to the state of California. So that way we're now able to reduce that peak. Earlier, everybody was seeing that was like super spiky and super high. So we're able to reduce that once with a lot of buildings aggregation. And in return, when you have this at your commercial real estate, you get incentivized. That's why it's called the incentive, transactional incentive-based energy system. So originally you would be paying 146,621 using the PG&E rate. After you have all of these installed, you would now be able, you would be able to save 36,655 out of the 146,621. So you get to save 25% out of what you originally paid using the same amount of energy without. There's no change to how you use energy, and there's no disruption to any of your operations of business. You can continue moving forward with how your commercial real estate operates. Currently, a building partner joining in is relatively easy. So that's another perk that we try to offer for the state of California and the US Department of Energy and US Electrification. All you need to do is simply connect with us. We are inside all 3 utilities of California: PG&E, San Diego Gas and Electric, and SDE. So if you have buildings in that area, all you need to do is log into your account and you can data share your electricity bill and your power usage directly with Micronoc. Once Micronoc receive that information, we would provide you a report of what it will look like, what your 25% discount rates is going to look like. And once you like what you see, all you need to do is sign up or register with our system and service for a one-time registration fee. And that's it. The rest we would do. So within the next, after registration, within 7 to 9 months, we will come onto your property. We would do engineering design. We would do the architectural structural design, and then we would implement, install all of the necessary equipment to qualify you for the incentives that Nancy just talked about. There's no lease, there's no purchase, nothing. We are actually partnerships. You bring your building, we bring the investment, we bring all of the equipment. And basically, simply you use, we manage, and you save. So now this brings me to the clean electricity incentive. What Nancy was talking about, the Inflation Reduction Act, which I like to call it, it's the new real estate for commercial real estate owners. Or in other words, it's called energy capacity. So according to the White House of US, they call the Inflation Reduction Act a $370 billion of investments to lower energy costs. So this is a very good time for commercial real estate. It is the next boom for you because this IRA will run for 10 years. And what that means is not only it reduces energy costs, it also accelerates the deployment of clean energy, clean vehicles, clean buildings, and clean manufacturing. So if you partake in any of these real estates or any of these assets, this is a really good time to get involved. So once again, to recap a little bit, what is involved in this IRA? How can you get this IRA? Basically, you have to have a main driver of energy storage system. And with ours is the property-based power station where we actually provide you our Micronoc patented CDP, which includes your energy storage system, your DC fast charging system, power and energy management control that's already synchronized with the grid operators, smart metering and telemetry, interconnection ID, which is really, really important, especially when you want to get into IRA, your grid resource ID, because you need to qualify for clean energy. And what this whole entire system does is it will charge the ESS. These are very simple ways to understand how it works, the total system. We would charge the ESS during the solar sun hours where it was oversupply on the grid. So either we can charge a battery directly from the utility or we can charge it from on-site solar. That will release the oversupply congestion and tension on that grid. And we will release it during the 4 to 9 p.m. where it's the most highest cost expensive and probably when most people are going to be charging their cars. So the second thing that we would do with the system is we would provide electricity savings and facilitate the electric grid balancing for number one. And again, balancing that 4 to 9 p.m., reducing that peak. So the last thing that everybody should keep in mind is it does, regardless of who you go to have these things installed for your commercial real estate, you have to make sure that it is designed with technology using data provided by utility. If they are using data by themselves, you may not be able to qualify for IRA. So that's something very, very important. So you should always check if they have power and energy management control patents or software. So another benefit of having your commercial real estate hook up a CDP with Micronoc is many people don't know, as Nancy mentioned it before, most people only know about level 2 charging. And level 2 charging is slow chargers. They take about between 4 to 12 hours, depending on what it is, the car and where you actually have the deployment. And that electricity charging is directly taken from the grid. So as you see on the left side, it's a little bit shaded. So it's really, really difficult for when you plug in DC fast charging, it's going to be having a lot more stress on that grid if we want to use the left-hand side to include charging station. So DC fast charger, they pull relatively a lot more power. They're taking 3 times more power as one building, one commercial real estate building, when you just hook up one connector with an electric vehicle. So what we try to do is we try to make commercial real estate equipped to have, when you have these DC fast chargers, when you have these electric vehicles coming to your property, to plug in to a fast charger that's going to take power from 5 minutes to 20 minutes, you are not stressing the grid because you have clean virtual power on site. So once you have that clean virtual power, everything is controlled, managed by the system. So let's go back, and I'm going to share with everybody a little bit about IRA now. So using the same example of the savings. So originally you're paying, we're using the PG&E rates. Originally you're paying $146,621, for example. Once a CDP is hooked up to this facility, you are now you are saving $36,655. So when that happens, you get to qualify for IRA. So before we look at how IRA works in more detail, one of the things that for commercial real estate you have to understand is 2 things. So for people that are paying for electricity, once CDP is hooked up, they are now getting a 25-year savings of electricity of $2.2 million over 25 years by just signing up and paying $5,000. So if you're a property owner, think about how many tenants it's going to like you and forever be with you, and how much rent you can actually increase without them complaining. So that's something that we like to share with a lot of people, that this is the benefit, this is the true benefit that the incentives coming from the government really wants to achieve, is to reduce the cost of electricity users. And then the second part is, let's say you want to take part in earning these tax incentives. You want to own these assets and you want to earn from your income. You're able to now own them with IRA. And with that, the total system for that same property that we're looking at, the total system cost would be $1.6 million or $1.7 million. But with the incentive that you're actually getting, you're getting about $1 million out of your $1.6 million cost. So it's a lot. You get to save a lot of money right now using your tax liability money. And then so your net cost is really just only $600,000 to increase the value of your commercial real estate. And in your payback year is actually in 4 years, you get a 24% IRR, which gives you a 25-year earning of $7 million to just come in and join the US program together with Micronoc. So we'll go into a little bit more detail on how that. And I'm sorry that because of a lot of calculation, we will try to answer more questions and give more information. So on the left is what you'll see, all of the costs calculated. You have your battery energy storage system, you have your solar, and you have your EV fast chargers. So that total cost will give you $1.6, $1.7 million. This is using that same exact building that we would install there, which is the 200 kilowatt. So next to the cost, you'll see kind of like a white area. That is where your incentive is. Your incentives is calculated with a federal ITC of 30%, which you can get 30% for all 3 of the equipment. And then you will also have a bonus depreciation that Nancy talked about earlier. So that bonus depreciation on year 1, you're getting 80% of your total cost in that year 1 for bonus depreciation. And then you have your California depreciation that you can use for 5 years for your kind of like a straight line, but instead you can do it in 5 years. So that's where that bonus depreciation comes in. Now, we've also included the electric vehicle rebate that you see here. That is the rebate that Nancy was talking about that you can get from your utility company. Most of the rebates right now, you have to go into reserve. So we encourage a lot of people to get in on it early, because once the reservation is over, then you don't have it anymore. And another one that you'll see is you'll see a carbon credit. So this is a new incentive that was opened up in the state of California. It was opened by the Air Quality Board of California. They created this market to calculate this. And it's a very simple calculation. Well, we don't have to try and calculate it. They actually have a calculator. So the way that it works is they believe that if you put in a fast charging system, each of the connectors that connects to a car to charge will avoid a car going to the gas pump. That is where that carbon credit comes from. So if you actually have a charging system in your commercial real estate property, what California is saying is you have helped them build up a clean electricity infrastructure. So instead of having people like go build at gas stations, you can offer your commercial real estate property and let companies like Micronoc come in, install those fast charging, and you get to partake in carbon credits. The other one next to it would be the SGIP. So SGIP is also a California focus incentive. It's called the self-generating incentive program. This one is also a rebate process. It's also a reservation. So we highly encourage everybody to get in on this one. This one is you can get approximately about 15%, maybe higher now because California is dying need for everybody's building. So the minimum you can get out of this rebate is 50% out of your whole entire cost of your project. And this will expire by the end of 2024. So we do highly encourage all commercial real estate to reserve this ASAP. And then so moving forward, so that is all your incentives right now that is on the table for all commercial real estate to grab. So on the right-hand side, starting from kind of like the grayish area, moving to the right-hand side, you'll see a little yellow marked on the top. That is where your revenue will be generated from every single one of these systems. So these are rates, your electricity rates from the utility company. So once the rate is identified from the building, you will plug into this sheet and you'll be able to calculate how much revenue you can generate from using the system. So that whole entire part is all calculating based on how much your tenant would get, how much you would receive, and then what is your net before tax. And then we have a total cash flow. So on this sheet, you'll see the three major highlighted areas is your cost on the bottom. So your total capital expenditure is highlighted using that same building example that we used. The rate that we use, which is that PG&E one that I was showing everybody, and then your net income or earnings for 25 years. So one last thing, I promise, yes, it's the last thing we want to share with everybody is that Micronoc's CDP is actually built in to give back to communities. Every single kilowatt and kilowatt hour, which is the term or units we use for electricity, that we reduce, we help balance, the community gets a percentage of that. So I just want to kind of give everybody a little bit of a perspective. In Santa Clara County, LA County, and Orange County, these three counties, they relatively use the same amount of energy for commercial real estate properties. So commercial real estate properties every single year in these three counties for the hours of 4 to 9 p.m., only the peak hours, they pay, all the businesses pay $500 million a year just to use electricity during those hours every year. So imagine, just, I know that's not possible, but just imagine if Micronoc CDP and your building, in every single building in these counties is connected, we're providing services for the government. We are now carving out $500 million a year that the tenant gets 25%, owners get 70%, and 5% can go to a mission-focused organization or can give back to the local community to do something good, such as education. And so here's just a little bit about us. I'm not going to bore you. we're just a whole bunch of people that's engineers, except for me, I am the only one who is not an engineer. So, so that's who we are. So we have in-house engineering. All of our systems are UL certified. We are licensed and we are contracted with the state of California. So I highly encourage everybody to get in on this new trend ASAP. So thank you very much. And I guess we're opening up for questions. So Edison is the actual utility company. So we would actually have an agreement with Edison. So once we come in to install the system at your site, so you, myself, or not myself, our company, so your company, my company, and this like SCE, we would go into what we call an interconnection agreement. So all three parties will enter an agreement where we would be operating and producing power during like on site together with SCE.
Let me add to that point, because, those, the IRA Act is very incentive, but it's also, it's a curse, it's also a blessing. The reason is because a lot of people out there, you can see there's a lot of money involved. A lot of people suddenly, after August last year, become a consultant. They want to consult you to get in all the incentive. But like I said, if you don't have a proper documentation, if you don't have the proper requirement, you're not qualified for it. A lot of time you spend a lot of money, you may not be able to get it. And also the difference from, they have a really the contract with all the Edison or PG&E and the San Diego utility company, they have a contract. They also have a patent that only get about a month ago, and on the 4th to 9th. You talk about the, a lot of people, like my nephew, they have he installed the solar energy. They also have the battery storage. What do? He said, you only using the battery is the storage when the blackout. The thing is that if they're using the software, every time in between 4 to 9, you're not using the Edison, you're using your own battery. So that's why your EV charging station, you're making money is by, because of all the incentive, your costs are already covered by the rebates. And your cost, you're not using a utility, you're using your own battery. You will fill up your battery to the lowest cost of the utility. So during that time, you're using your own battery to feed the DC charger. So not on top of that, you're making money on that.
So is this all for commercial type of buildings, industrial, warehousing, retail, or does it go into like say multi-family, right, which is part of commercial? And what about then single family?
So in short, general answer, well, before I do that, do I have to repeat that?
Yeah, because he didn't have a mic. Can you repeat it briefly to the online audience?
Okay, so one of the gentlemen here is asking, can this be applied to all buildings, so to speak, like your residentials, your multifamily, your commercial? And the answer to that is yes, we can. Right now, all of the utilities is implementing different kind of programs to work with solutions like what Micronoc offers to ensure that multifamily buildings can also qualify. But all commercial industrial is not going to be a problem. Residential, including single families, it will also be qualified. It's just that for Micronoc ourselves, we will be launching the residential program starting late this year, but fully launched will be next year. So what we do have is for individual residents, homes, you can sign up with us. You can pre-sign up with us for beta. We don't know exactly what that beta program is, but we can definitely accommodate residential as well.
Do any of you have any questions you want to ask the speaker?
I'm asking on this question from behalf of Jimmy Vega. He put his question in the chat box. So how long, I'm interpreting the question a little bit or rephrasing a little bit, is how long is this program for? I think it was mentioned for 2024. Is it gonna from your point of view, is it gonna last a little longer? Because right now we're halfway roughly to 2023, so we could do 2023 and then 2024. Is there kind of does the government saying it just ends, or how does that work?
So the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act, the Clean Electricity Tax Credit, that's for 10 years. That's not going away. The one that's expiring is on the sheet here. And that it's going away is so in the center, the white area, there's like a white box area. The very last one in the white box area is called the California SGIP. That is expiring end of 2020, but it's only about 15% out of your total cost. And the one thing I just want to mention that you don't need to own any of these systems. Actually, Micronoc owns, manages, installs everything. So I just wanted to add that.
Thank you.
My question is like, we're own residential and it won't be happening till end of this year or early next year. What's the cost for the homeowners to getting this system?
So the homeowners, the way that we do our cost analysis is based on all the users, all the electricity buyers. What you want to do is you want to go into your utility account, and then you want to, there's a place where it's called data sharing. When you click on the data sharing, you can just authorize Micronoc to receive your energy usage profile. So when we receive that, then we can give you an analysis of what that looks like. So I highly encourage, again, for residentials, please sign up and it will give you more information because our residential side will come later this year. This is for single family resident. For multifamily, we already have case studies that we can provide. So to answer the lady's question, I believe also if it's new construction, right? So if it's new construction, what we'll need is how you're building the property, your electrical load profile or single line diagram. You can get that from your electrical engineer. And then you can provide us a copy of that and we would be able to tell you what is the size of the system that we are proposing and what would be the estimated cost to put that system in.
I have two questions from the internet from Jim. Jim asked, the first question is, the current president is running this Inflation Reduction Act. So it has got a certain windows. And the question he has is, should a different president be elected? Will this program be in jeopardy?
That's why 23-24 is very critical.
Well, yeah, but I just want to let everybody understand that the Inflation Reduction Act was an executive emergency order, so it's not something that they haven't implemented. It is already in the IRS tax code, so it's in the code, so they can't remove it. So, and another thing that, and Nancy can add this if I'm wrong, but in the traditional tax credit IRS code, you already have investment tax credit. It's always been there. So the difference of this IRA is only that instead of your normal base of like 6%, if you are incurring jobs and you are producing clean electricity and you are doing US made products, you get as high as 30%. It's just an increase by having these qualifications. So I don't think any president is going to come in and say no to better jobs, no to clean energy, and no to US made products. That's just my opinion though.
I think she's right, but I think it's a very difficult thing to do, especially when people are already starting building those the facility. And you cannot just cancel in the middle of the construction. We are talking about a lot of big, especially nowadays, you talk about Chase, Bank America, West Fargo Bank, and also like, private equity firm. They heavily invest in this area. So okay. It's a really, you talk about $370 billion. It's not a small change.
The internet participant also has another question is will it work for smaller resident like 46 units? And I can see this is a very sophisticated, intricate system where you store all your electricity just like our solar panel and then release it based on software and control to release at the time of usage when it's high. So he's asking that question. let's say, smaller company, or even small apartment owners, we don't have $1 million to invest with this. Are there something we can do?
Yeah, so the cost of the equipment is, has nothing to do with what kind of buildings you have. It's more about the usage. So if you're, so I hear two parts of this question. The first question is, if after you do my analysis and I don't have enough money to invest, what should I do? All you need to do is sign up as a user and then we will invest. So you don't have to worry about the investment at all. You just enjoy your savings and some of your earnings. So you don't have to worry about investment whatsoever. The other part of the question is that I hear is, can small residentials, multifamilies, or commercials also participate, or does it have to be large energy user? So the simple answer to that question is every building can participate. The only question is, how do we participate together? So that's something that we encourage all properties to just reach out and we can give more details.
Okay, thank you for your time. And that's all the time we can have. So I'll pass it back to you. Is this only available in California? The other question I have too, who are your competitors? Are there company like this in other states?
So, okay, so the first question is, can I only do this in California? The answer is no. So I actually travel everywhere. If you have buildings, like I said, I'm the one who's not an engineer, so you can call me and I will be there. So yeah, we can do this everywhere because IRA is actually a whole entire United States program. And every single state, every single utility has a peak hour. So we can definitely provide this in every single state. The second question is, who's our competitor? I don't think there's any, but that's just my opinion. And I don't think anybody will believe me. So I will share this. I think for those, I want more competitors to come in because there's a lot of buildings that we need to get to work on. So we do, if anybody want to be my competitor, please also come and knock on our door because I would definitely love to teach them how to be my competitor. Thank you.
Good. Well, on behalf of the Western Gable Valley Realtors, we would like to thank Nancy, Luke, and Ting Chang for being our guest speaker and for your informative presentation today. Let's give them a round of applause. We missed everyone on Zoom and hope you can join us in person for snacks and a quick after session networking with our guest speakers. And lastly, a group photo. We have an amazing lineup of useful and interesting upcoming classes. On May 9th, arbitration of real estate disputes. On May 11th, 2023 legal updates with Gov Hutchinson. On May 16th, our meet and learn sessions. The future of real estate, global connectivity, and artificial intelligence. We hope to see you there. Till then, goodbye. Thank you.